right, y'all. All right. Welcome back to Vibrant Works. My name is Justin Fales, and today we're going to be talking about healing the ego driven mind, a holistic approach. This is a very important topic because we all have an ego, but we've allowed the ego to essentially run our lives and in many ways in a negative way. We allow our ego to create negative energy instead of knowing the place of the ego and how to use it for your benefit. All right. So give me just a second so I can share this link out. All right. Oh, I need to change this title. All right. Oops. Need to change this title here. Boom. All right, so we got that. Now I'm gonna share that here. Copy. How y'all doing today? Thank y'all for being here. I feel great to be here and grateful to be here and grateful to finally get into a place of teaching. A lot of what I teach, I've learned over many years. However, I will only pretty much teach things that I have applied in my life. All right. So I'm just putting up my link on Facebook until I find a better way to do this so people can join. All right. But we're going to get into this. Just got my link posted. All right. It's posted now. So thank y'all again for being here. I appreciate you. Oh, you like the shirt? Let me move this out of the way for a second. Hey, anyone understands the reference? Yeah, I love you 3000. It's my boy Iron, you know what I'm saying? So, but that's true. I love everybody. So, got that up and going. We're going to see if people hop in this chat right quick. All right. Healing the ego driven mind, a holistic approach. So, like I said in the beginning, the ego is something that if we only understood how to use it to our benefit and not allow it to be in the driver's seat of our life, then we could reap the benefits in a positive manner. So let's get into this a little bit. And as we did on my initial video, everything that I teach will be more from a descriptive perspective and one of my own understanding. So if my definitions differ from the dictionary definitions, that's okay. Someone made that word up. So I'm very, I like to apply my own meaning to words so that I can process it through my ego in the best manner to extract the best benefit out of it. So, ego. What is ego? What is ego, y'all? Let me make that a little bigger so we can see if you guys can see that. All right. And by the way, let me know if my mic is good. I did some work on trying to improve it big time. So let me make sure everything on my mic is good. Yep. Okay. What is ego? So we're going to put some descriptive terms here. Ego, and this is, like I say, my definition, my understanding, and how I'm able to apply it and manipulate these words, these energies, so that I can extract the benefit. Ego is not you. So that's the first thing to know. Ego is not you. However, ego is your unique and perfect perception. Perception on life. All right, let me see if I can make that a little bigger. All right, ego is not you. And I'll break that down here in a minute. However, ego is your unique and perfect perception on life. What that means is ego is unique to the individual that's experiencing that ego because the ingredients that make you up and your perspective, like everything that adds to your perspective, is generally processed through your ego. So if you're in a position of power or a position of not in power, then your ego will experience two different things. You will have way different perspectives. The person that's not in power, through an egotistical way, could look down on a person not in power, whereas the person that's not in power can look up and hate the person in power. So all of that is processed through ego. Ego, we're gonna do this again. Let me get some water, y'all. Hold on. Ego is not you. However, ego is your unique and perfect perception on life. Ego is a construct within your conscience. And Lord, forgive me for my spelling, y'all. So I know I'm not gonna spell everything perfect, but hey, it's all good. Ego is a construct within your conscience. So your mind is infinite. The ego isn't. So let me see if I can draw a visual here of what I'm talking about. So let's say we got this big old circle here. Big old circle here. So this circle, we can call that mind. So this is your mind. It's massive. It's infinite. It goes on and on forever. That's why it's kind of in a loop here, like in a circle, because it just goes on and forever. There is no start. There is no end. This is your mind or your conscious. Let me move this down a little bit. So this is your mind. Your ego isn't your mind. Some people may believe that, but the ego isn't the mind. The ego is a construct within the mind, and that's how powerful the mind is. Your mind creates the ego, and that's not the only thing your mind creates, but that'll be another topic. I'll dive more into those type of topics another day. So within that, so your mind is this big old circle here. Within that, let me see if I get another one. Within that is a smaller circle. Let's just make a smaller circle. So this is your ego. Much smaller circle. So this is your ego. It's within the mind. The mind is the energy, the consciousness, the one that's connected with God. So that's probably another thing I should add on here. And I'm going to just draw to make this simpler. All right. So your mind is connected to God directly. No middleman. There's no middleman between your mind and God. Now, the middleman between your mind and ego is Your soul. Oops. Yep. Your soul. So that means you have your mind in the big circle. So everything is mind. Everything is energy, energetic, conscious. So the consciousness that we experience is directly from God. Some people call it source. Some people call it all that is. Some people call it God. Don't care what you call it. Okay, that's the most important thing to remember. God really don't care what you call it. So you have mind, which is this massive circle, which is the energy that we have consciousness in. Within that is your soul, and your soul casts down a specific set of energies that's called your ego. So your ego is your unique perspective as, in my case, as Justin, a black dude in America who is married, who has 2 kids. All of that, all of those descriptions will enhance or could create a negative experience within my ego, just depending on how you look at it. So, ego, you see how small of a circle the ego is in? Where we get caught up and where we slip up and fall short is we think the ego is running the show. We allow it to run the show. So, another descriptive word I would say, ego is individuality. That's another way to look at ego. Ego is individuality. So it's the part of you that says you're yourself. So you're yourself essentially is an ego expression. So ego is individuality. You'll like what you like. You'll like what you don't like. You'll dislike what you don't like. All of those things are ego. Ego, let me add to that, is divisive. Ego is divisive. So it's a divide. It has to be, though. So divide doesn't particularly mean negative, but ego is divisive. So what it's going to say is, through this specific lens that make up you, the set of energies that make up you, your perspective will matter. It can impact others. However, it only matters in a divisive way. So because you're not connected as a whole with your community or your family or even within yourself, the ego, essentially, the job of the ego is essentially to give you the experience of one individual person. Although you can assume the energies of other people, the ego is all about self. So it's individual, and because it's only about self, that's what makes it divisive. It's a dividing tactic. And we live in a society where it's ego driven. We're led on the principles of ego. So if you were to see ego in this small hole, so this is a visual. Why is it that ego is I'm not gonna say that, but ego can be seen as the god of earth. Just because in order to come here and experience earth, you essentially have to have ego. So ego can be seen as the god of earth. That's a whole deeper topic I'll have to dive in another time. And let me put that in lowercase because I understand what that actually means. But ego can be seen as the god of earth. This entire experience on earth is essentially we're able to perceive and conceive what's going on around us due to ego. And not just perceive, but perceive in the specific way that we can. So in my lens, as I am a black dude in America in my 30s, grew up a certain way, I have a very particular perspective on life. And the next guy beside me can grow up in the same area. He can have the same type of education. Of course, he's going to have different skill sets, different likes and dislikes. But his ego will teach him how to perceive life in an entirely different way. Although we're two different individuals, grew up the same way. You can have a sibling, grew up in the same household, but because your ego is constructed in a way to give you an experience, then you will understand, you will see life through that lens. Now, that's not the only way to see life, though. It's through your ego. And that's why I drew out this diagram here. Because if you want to get out of ego and you want to start healing and you want to understand why you feel so tired all the time, it's because you're allowing your ego to do the job of your soul, your mind, and God. Essentially. That's why we get so overworked, so stressed, this and that. The job of the ego, let me start a new board here. So what's the job of the ego? So you can understand job of the ego. What's the job of the ego? The job of the ego, and we're going to add this here, to give you a unique experience. To give you a unique experience, to process emotions through your belief systems, to give you information on your particular view of life. So your ego, the job of the ego essentially is to even give you an experience, period. Without the ego, we would have no earthly experience as a human. So I want y'all to understand that. We have to have the ego. You can't get rid of it and still experience the human experience. So it's not to say the ego is negative. However, it's to say that the ego can be used negatively because we don't even understand what it is and how to use it. We think it's a tool to control. We believe the ego is a tool to control things, y'all. Manipulate things. Tell people how they should be, who they should be, what they should do, when they shouldn't do it. We think our ego is supposed to be the driving factor on shaping the world. Your ego isn't meant to shape the world. It's to give you an experience within the world you created. We created. So when you see bad things happening in your neighborhood, just know that wasn't by chance. We created that experience because somewhere down the line we didn't have the toolkit, we didn't have the communication, we didn't have the skill set, we didn't have the knowledge, the awareness to know that when a gun is pulled, a trigger is pulled, that didn't start right then and there. That's the result of ego on many different levels, through the media, through your community, through your families. All of that is ego. So the job of the ego is you experience good, bad, and different. And then the goal is to transcend that. So you're sending information right back up to your soul. So because, let's go back to that other one so y'all can see what I'm talking about. Because things happen on the ego level and that's how you experience things. The ego's job, another thing the egos do, let me click that, is to send information back up to the soul. That's the entire job of the ego. And what we're trying to do is operate more in balance with our soul, with our spirit, y'all. That's what we're trying. That's the whole goal. While we're here experiencing life on earth as a human, is to send information back up to the soul through the ego so that the soul can convert it and transmute it to light, to positivity, to neutralize it, so that what we do experience is a reflection of the things that the work we've been putting in, the love we've been adding in of our consciousness here on earth as a collective human race. So when the ego, like if I experience as a black man, let's just say police brutality, on an ego level, what happens is it's going to filter through my belief systems. My belief may be police are unfair to people of color. Police don't have our good intentions in mind, and police are out to harm us. So all of that is processed through ego. And the thing is, no one can invalidate the ego. It's just your ego can start working against you when you start working on importing and exporting directly from the soul. So you get distorted energy. Your antenna is distorted. So if you want to get direct information from God and from your soul, we have to understand the place of the ego. We have to understand how to heal it, y'all. So let's get into the healing of the ego. So ego is divisive, it's individual, it's to give you an experience. Ego can be positive, can be negative, depending on how you're using it. You can't get rid of it, because if you did, you wouldn't be able to experience this life here on earth as a human, as you specifically. Okay? We got that? Cool. All right. So, send information back to the soul. How can we heal the ego? Let's get there. How to heal the ego. Because we've made the ego so important where it runs our lives, and we don't know how to take action outside of an egotistical approach, then what happens is we overuse it. That's where stress come in. That's where overworking come in. That's where headaches come in. That's where health issues come in. All of these things that we experience is because we overuse our ego, and we use it in a way that it wasn't designed to do, y'all. You're not supposed to be the brainiac know-it-all. That's ego talking. Because let's just break it down logically. How is it possible for you specifically to know it all? So the only way to know it all is to be, what they call it, omniscient, like everywhere, all the time, anytime, and aka God, you know what I mean? So that's the only way to know it all. And that's not quite how we're set up here on the earth. as humans. So it's okay to accept it. It's okay to know that you don't know it all, and that's okay. So it's okay to go after knowledge. It's okay to go after skill sets, go after things that bring you value in your life. But there is a such thing as overusing the ego. So how to heal the ego? First thing to do is to stop using it so much. Like anytime you want to heal anything, let's say you break your leg, the first thing they're going to tell you to do is to get off your leg. Stop using it. You have to create a rest state. A rest state so that your ego can heal. And what does that look like? Not using your ego so much. So let's say you're in traffic. Someone cuts you off in traffic. And through your ego, you want to cuss them out. Or you're at work and you don't like these folk. You want to cuss them out. You don't really want to be here. So understand all of that is being processed on an ego level. So because we understand now that ego is actually within your soul, because ego is within your soul, that means there's a level up that you can process things from, which is the soul. There's a level up. So you can ask yourself, how will my ego respond in this moment? What do I really want to say? So once you understand how you really want to process things in your ego, that's when you can start adding your spirit, your soul into the equation. And that's the real answer on how to heal your ego. It's to operate more on the soul plane. Soul plane, y'all. Y'all get that? Oh, snap. That's a movie, but that ain't what I meant. It just kind of came together like that. So you gotta operate on a higher level than the ego. Because you remember I said, you're not your ego. You're not your ego. Your ego is just your unique perspective. That's all it is. Okay? So because it's your unique perspective, your soul is much more vast, much more great, has many more experiences that you have yet to remember or recall. Then that means on a soul level, it has answers that you don't have, that you haven't received on the ego level yet. So create a rest state. Relax. Just relax the ego. If you want to do something or say something crazy, you can, but understand that's still building up energy from a negative ego place that will tire out the ego. So imagine you rested your ego and someone cut you off in traffic and you had the ability to not create negative energy in that situation. Now that's when you've transcended the ego. When the things that used to matter and used to hurt you and used to get you upset and angry and used to stress you no longer stresses you. Because you've told the ego, yo, this is not your job. Your job isn't to process soul level things. Your job is to process human level things. Human level things. So as humans, predicting the future, soul level. That's a soul level concept. Understanding the energy and assuming the energy of what's to come. Soul level. That's not ego. So give it a rest. You don't have to know what's coming next. People want to feel secure in knowing, but you don't know. You don't even know if you're going to be here tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? So if we already understand that, build on that concept. We don't know we're going to be here tomorrow, and we found the way to be okay with that. Now be okay with, on another level, you don't have to know what's coming next. But the key is to understand what comes next. It's for you, to build you, to grow you on a soul level. Your ego may have some work to do, which the only work the ego really needs to do is to get out the way and rest. Straight up. Just rest, chill, relax. It's not that serious. There's far greater things going on than our specific perspective, y'all. So stop using it so much. Create a rest state. Another thing that indicates if you're overusing your ego. Okay, hold on. I'm about to say, what's going on here? All right, delete that. Soul isn't divisive. So I'm gonna say soul is inclusive. Soul is inclusive, y'all. So if you understand that your soul is inclusive, that means it doesn't divide and it doesn't take sides, because it's operating in unconditional love for you, for your ego. Your ego just has to understand this. Your soul is inclusive. So if you're operating in a place of divisiveness, or you're around people that's pushing divisive ideas, they not like us, so let's not be like them. Let's not be involved with them. Understand that's a limiting belief. That's not a soul. That's a ego thing, where here in our bubble, we can create tribes. We can create communities that has people like us. I get it in that sense. But on a spiritual sense, no such thing. It's all inclusive, because it's unconditional love. That's at the center of God, the center of your soul. Unconditional love. And you have free will on an ego level to do what you want. Just know you're gonna, essentially what they say, reap what you sow, energetically speaking. That doesn't mean be afraid of what you do or be very careful, this and that. That just means understand the energy you put out in some way or form will cause a effect and ripple in your life, and you'll have to face those actions, or that energy, I should say, because you may have to face it in many different ways. It may not be exactly the way that you did it to begin with. So your soul is inclusive. So what that means is topics such as, I'm gonna show you what's ego and what's soul. Let me do this. Topics of the ego. We're gonna do that. So this is how you can recognize what's ego going forward. This is how you recognize what's ego going forward. Oh my goodness. I try to get better at this. All right. Topics of the ego, y'all. Gender. Gender wars. He versus she. They, and any other word you can come up with. Gender wars. That's the topic of the ego. That has nothing to do with spirit whatsoever. Spirit don't care. Y'all have free will to even talk about this. So if we start understanding that we're being divisive on the ego level, and it's creating such division, and that's why the energy on earth at times can feel like earth is in a bad place. And not everybody operates like that, but just know as a collective, it's gonna show you. So gender wars, wealth status, talking about how much money somebody made versus how much money somebody didn't make. Gender wars also mean men versus women and all of that. What a man should be and what a woman should be. The roles of women, the roles of men. All of that is topics of the ego. It's not to say it's not a valid thing. It's to say that that's operating on an ego level when we're trying to get to the soul level of operating. That's the whole purpose. Wealth status, talking about how much money someone made and how you don't like that person because of the money they made. Gossiping. Gossiping is an ego level topic. Spirit don't care, couldn't care less. Spirit couldn't care less about gossiping, y'all. That's a human experience, an ego experience. But just understand the energy you put out when you gossip. You're not operating at a high frequency when you get stuck in gossiping. So, race wars, like my black versus white, Asian versus Indian or whatever. Race wars are ego driven. They have nothing to do with nothing on a soul level. So all of these topics, topics of the soul. I'm gonna change this. Topics of the soul, y'all. Topics of the soul. What the soul likes to talk about and where it wants you to put your energy is in not judging. Not judging, y'all. Soul doesn't judge. You judge yourself on an ego level through your consciousness. But soul doesn't judge. It's inclusive. Nothing is greater than another. It's inclusive. Nothing is greater than another on a soul level, which means it's a holistic approach. Women need men just as much as men need women to have the type of experience that's beneficial to us as a whole. And not speaking on roles specifically, energetically speaking. Okay? Because we can pretty much all do the same things, even biologically. There's some differences, but for the most part, it's pretty much the same, y'all. So it's time to drop all the divisive topics and judging people and not allowing people that has fallen short to have a space to redeem themselves within their mind. Okay? Healing. Topics of the soul. Healing. How do we heal? How do we get better? How do we grow? How do we expand? Expansion. How do we expand? How do we expand in a way that's inclusive, that doesn't harm others? Especially intentionally. Topics of the soul. Abundance. That goes right into expansion. Understanding abundance. It's all around you. It's in you, you of it. So that's topics of the soul, y'all. So you're healing your ego when you stop the topics of the ego, when you stop those things and you start getting into the topics of the soul. That's how you heal your ego. You let your ego rest. And then you start building up that soul in you, that spirit in you. Okay? And I'll teach a lot more on specifics on how to use these things to your benefit. But just giving you the overview. I needed that drink of water. I ain't gonna lie. So I have a image here I would like to show you guys that kind of breaks down the ego a little more. The ego, as you can see in the left side, It increases independence and knowledge. So it's self-centric. That's where you start out on the ego level, ego development level. It's self-centric. Who has the biggest egos y'all know? Kids, babies. They don't care about nothing but them because they're fully functional in their ego. Kids don't care about nothing but them. That's ego. We're supposed to develop that in time into a positive manner, not stay stuck in the kid stage, the baby stage. Understand? The next development step of the ego is group centric. So now it's more about being, like I say, in a tribe or a group or a community or a family. It's more like your peer group. You're thinking as one on the ego level as the group. They not like us. We like this. They like that. We do this over here. This is my team. That's your team. This is how my team operate. That's group centric. Skill centric is more like when you start developing skills. Like, we electricians over here. We do great work. And we're going to look down on the handyman. So the ego develops skills at this point. We're going to look down on where we came from because we have these new skills. I'm a lawyer now. I'm a doctor. I'm a nurse. I have a high paying position. And then you develop more in your knowledge and your skills, and now you're self-determined. I'm going to make it. I got to make it. I got to. I have to get us out the mud, y'all. Get it out the mud. I will do it. I won't go back. So it's self-determining. It drives itself because it feels like it has something to drive away from. And life ain't no race. It's a journey. And if it is a race, it's a marathon. So relax. Okay? Now, this is when you start tapping into more of the spiritual soul side. So that line in the middle there. This is when you know your development, where your development is on the ego level and how to heal it. So when you get tired of feeling like you're in a rat race, you're competing against people, you're in groups of, you find yourself in situations over and over again that you like, how the heck? Or you're really going through things, you'll eventually get exhausted or worn out. And you're like, man, I can't, why I keep attracting these type of people in my life? Why I keep finding myself in these situations? Why am I always getting the short end of the stick? It's because, y'all, you've been operating or you've allowed your ego to drive your train. And that's not how it's supposed to be. You want to be on the right side of this chart. So, once you get to the point of, I'm tired of this, man. These people, this job, nothing is working out. How? How can I be happy? How can I attract the people I want to attract the money I want to attract the opportunities I want to attract? How can I live in a skyscraper if it's relevant to you? How can I live on 100 acres? So that's where you want to start getting to. The self-questioning, y'all. Question yourself. It's healthy. Don't be afraid of what the answers may be, but question yourself. That's where it starts. Because now you're operating, you're increasing your interdependence and maturity. Because you understand you're not alone. That's what interdependence means. Understanding you're not alone. So you question yourself. Why do I think that way? Why do I believe men is greater than women? Women is greater than men. Why do I believe there is no great men out there, no great women out there? Why do I believe I can't get $100,000 job? Why do I believe I have to yell at my man, yell at my kids? Start asking those questions, y'all. And once you start asking those questions, you go to the next step, y'all. Self-actualizing. Whereas it's just simply you're becoming aware of the truth. Because you start asking why I do this, how I do this. And then you realize, oh, I don't have to. Because now you're aware of self. Oh, I don't have to cuss at that person that just crossed me off, that just cussed me out or crossed me in traffic. I don't have to do that. How do I know I don't have to do that? Because I'm able to question it. I'm able to make a choice. I'm aware. I don't have to be mad just because somebody say something crazy to me. I don't have to. I allow myself to. I create that experience and that energy. Oh man, my camera going down, y'all. So we're gonna have to get off. Actually, let's do this. Although my camera went down, you still see the picture up. So I'm gonna finish speaking on the picture itself, y'all. Okay. All right. So we got the self-actualizing, where you become aware. You're like, actually, this is how I usually react, but I don't have to do that. I don't have to do those things. Who told me that? And you'll realize a lot of the times you told yourself that, or you allow other people to tell you about yourself. Can't nobody tell you about yourself. That's the beauty of what God has done for us. Can't nobody tell you about yourself. All right. Then you move on to the next. You start building out a construct and awareness. Like, oh, okay. Now I know I don't have to do that. I'm aware that this is actually the cause of my reactions. So now I take a brief moment to breathe and think about what I'm about to say. And then I create a construct on how I want to respond. So you're preparing yourself to even be in situations that you used to attract. But you're prepping yourself and building yourself to know, oh, I don't have to respond like that. This is actually how I want to represent myself in the world, how I want to put out the energy in the world. Okay? And then the last step is when you transcend, y'all. That's why it's less than 1% of people get here. But when you transcend, it's when you understand that nothing is divided. It's whole. You are him. You are she. All of you on a soul level connected to God are one. So whatever you're saying to that person or however you're judging that person, you're actually judging yourself in the same way if you were in their shoes. And what did I say about the soul? It doesn't judge. So if you're operating in ego, you can't even transcend to the place of wholeness and uniting. So if we were united, like United States say united, if we were really united, y'all, we wouldn't never talk about race, gender, none of that. It's all about merit. It's all about what you bring to the table. It's all about your ideas. It's all about your creativity. It's all about how much you can love people. Those are the type of things we should be talking about. Not your skin color. Not your gender. Not when you do what you do when you off work. So we got to unite, y'all. And like I say, it's a process. I've been applying these things in my life, and I know they work. And a lot of understanding how things work is to break them down. So that's my goal here for y'all, is the things I've learned, the things I'm learning, because it doesn't stop. I will bring them to y'all so we can have a better opportunity to break through, y'all, and transcend. It's not that only 1% of people can transcend and operate on a soul level. It's just that majority of people don't realize what they're doing. or how they're doing it or how it's affecting those around them. And we get so threatened by other people's ideas. We get so threatened by other people's ideas that we think an idea is the harm. No, it's okay that people have ideas, but let's conversate. The only time you can harm is with action, not ideas, not words. Okay? So my camera went off, it died on me. But thank y'all for being here. Thank you, and let's start healing the ego. Let's start operating on a soul level. And we out.